Warhol's greatest creation is Warhol.
Is himself.
Right? And it is. It really is. His platinum hair, his
black outfits.
His black outfit, his enigmatic demeanor.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
again, you kind of look at and you're like, this guy's a dolt. He was literally that stereotypical artist that everybody, would tease and make fun of. That was him, I swear. You're listening to the Angry Designer Podcast, where we help frustrated graphic designers crush the industry bull and share what it takes to charge what you're worth and build badass, rewarding careers. Andy Warhol didn't just create art. He created a revolution. He broke every rule in the industry. He redefined creativity and proved that business and art go hand in hand. In this episode, we're diving deep into Warhol's genius, his art, his factory, his bold business practices, and while giving you the Andy Warhol playbook to apply these methods to your graphic design career. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, Anger Management for Designers. It's on our website, or you can find the link on our profile. Every week, it's packed with stories, strategies, and no BS advice. It's your guide to getting what you're worth and crushing the design world for 2025. All right, ready to channel your inner Warhol? Let's get going.
Great. Here we are, back again.
Well, what do we got over here, my friend Sean? What is this? High West.
High West.
I know. It's kind of feeling kind of cowboy-y. I don't think we've ever seen High West. Hopefully it's good. Might not. But it's High West Bourbon.
Bourbon.
Yeah, and this is a blend, a whiskey blend.
Where's it from? Is this Canadian?
Yeah, good question. No, it's definitely not Canadian.
It's not
right?
Canadian.
No,
Okay.
It's not Canadian. It's definitely a product of the U.S. Oh, Utah.
Utah.
Dude. We have yet to have, and on a good note, I can return for a refund. So I'm going to take this back to Utah for a refund.
Say hi to
Michael Janda. This is for you, buddy.
Oh, here we go. Is he in Utah?
Yeah, he's in Utah, our buddy. So anyway, it's kind of cool. It's got like this whole little, nice little embodiment.
yes.
But look at the bottle. Like it's a beautiful bottle because it's got a vintage, like it's got the specs. Yeah, Sean got
I gotta put my
glasses
specs
for this one.
Speaking of
but look,
specs,
like it looks like one of those like ancient
like an
antique
old bottle. Yeah,
Right,
like
an
from
old
that
Coke,
time
right?
period.
It's like, and that's the thing that caught my eye about this. It looked really cool, authentic, old.
Yeah.
So I was just like, hey, all right, let's try that.
Yeah, that's
So let's
kinda
hope
one
it
of
actually
those,
tastes pretty good.
You write a message to a friend and then you throw it into the lake. Yeah, and it's like that kind of bottle, right?
All right, let's give it a smell.
Okay, the smell.
It actually
smells good.
Really freaking good.
All right, well, let's get this going.
Like it's got good flavor, but I can taste, I can smell a little bit of, I'm going to kick your ass, I think. Let's try.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is going to
up.
kick your ass. No.
Wow. That is good.
That is awesome.
It's not too sweet. It's the right amount of caramel.
Oh.
It's just beautiful going down.
There's no kick-assing about that.
Wow. And
That is,
but it's giving me a nice warm belly, like just enough.
That's how you doing, bud?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
High West.
That's really good.
How about
That's
that?
really good.
Wow. So, bought it for the bottle, but wow. This flavor is underrated. Wow. I like that. Well, anyway, guys, I highly recommend a High West for anybody. High West Bourbon from Utah. Michael Janda approved.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not
wonder
sure
if
about
he
that,
likes
but
it,
maybe
yeah.
he will anyway. Yeah, this is good. So this is
All right.
So I'm glad to be back in Canada
Yes.
on my stint to New York.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody know. Well, obviously nobody would know, but unless you kind of followed me on Instagram. But again, took a nice little drive down to New York with my daughter.
Nice.
We did the art tour, which fucking my first time in New York, and it was awesome.
And for the record, people, this guy drove.
I like to drive. Anybody who remembers us from last year, Creative South, that was a marathon, 16-hour straight drive.
Nice.
This was only 8. I could have
easy.
I took a nap halfway between while driving.
Really grab the wheel up, Daddy.
Just put on cruise, just hold the steering wheel. It was the drive was fantastic. It was beautiful, a lot of mountains and stuff. But New York was fucking cool. Okay, so now again, I wasn't in love with the whole, we grew up with Toronto. So we're used to big buildings, tall, skyscraper. And Toronto is a lot more congested than New York.
Yes.
So I didn't feel, claustrophobic in New York, right? It was beautiful. Lots of wide streets. It was great. It was busy as hell, right? Which I think a lot of people kind of would expect with that. But I mean, I loved it. I can see why people go there. There was such a cool vibe in this place.
Nice.
Right? We did MoMA, which love MoMA.
Amazing.
Okay. MoMA was fantastic. We did the Guggenheim just for the architecture.
Yep.
Not a big fan of the art there.
What's it look like when you're there? Like
inside?
Outside.
Outside.
Crazy ass.
It is. It's
weird
like
looking building, right?
Yeah, it looks like a bucket.
Yes.
Right? A bucket with kind of like stripes going up.
Right.
Really cool. Really cool.
That's interesting.
The art there wasn't necessary. Again, my daughter and I are definitely into, a little bit more modern pop. And then we went to the Met. Okay, but just for the art, we didn't even go for the museum portion. Again, we were on an art mission. Okay, and again, I loved what we saw there. That was a crazy place to be because again, you saw art that you grew up with and you experienced. You saw it flat, and then all of a sudden, you just kind of walk around the corner and boom,
and there it is.
It was in front of you.
Yeah,
they had beautiful Monets. They had beautiful. God, there was so much Picasso. I mean, I think I mentioned it to you. There were so many damn Picasso paintings.
Just like whatever.
There's another one. I go to the bathroom. There's one right there. Okay. Sorry. They didn't have enough wall space.
Oh, geez, really? Come on.
Which is incredible to say. I've never seen, only a couple Van Goghs, right? We back at MoMA, we saw one Lichtenstein, which was I was hoping to see more Lichtenstein, to be honest.
Yeah.
And cool enough, we ran into Warhol, right? A couple Warhol pieces. Because again, we're into pop art. We're into contemporary, postmodern. Like, I mean, again, all the clean stuff, all the stuff that feels very graphic design centric.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Which I do find. Yeah. And I did find that with Warhol's work. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was kind of crazy because, going into, Warhol's stuff, I have mixed feelings about the dude. Right. Like, I mean, I always thought the dude was a kook. Right?
He's crazy. I think he's nuts.
A little bit of a nut bar. Right. Yeah. Which, worked for him.
Yeah.
Okay. It did work for him. And, going into it, I was like, well, how great could his art be? Because it was like, screen printed. And it was, when we talk about more about this, it was almost like it was mass produced.
Right.
Well, it in fact was.
It was. Yes.
Right. It was in as art could possibly be. Mm-hmm. But then when you're standing there in front of this epic piece, like 32 fucking cans of Campbell soup, right? The way it was meant to be displayed. And you're just standing there and there is something else that comes over you, right? Because it was just like a good piece of graphic design, something that just, it's balanced. It was beautifully laid out. And again, you've seen this for years and, in fact, our whole lives.
Yep.
We've seen these pieces. So it was cool in that sense, which then spurred the whole, let's learn about Warhol because, although I wish I saw more Lichtenstein, right? In all fairness, I really do, which, Warhol's piece felt very graphic design centric.
Yes.
You agree?
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, what he was doing, I think was very less art and more kind of the graphic design.
Right.
style.
And a lot of people, again, so Warhol's like a love-hate thing, right? Some people, love him and they fawn over him and they're like, he's so brilliant.
Yeah, like, wow, my mind is blown. I mean, really? No, I never thought that.
Not really. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, okay, I got a quote here from him and he's like, art is what you can get away with. And that really does. So these people who put these deep meanings into his art, I don't know if that's just the art scene.
Right.
Which, again, I call a lot of BS.
There's a lot
in
of BS.
all fairness, right?
For sure.
But even in, one famous quote that he said was, if you want to know about Andy Warhol, just look at the surface. There's nothing behind it. And it's just, so he called it what it is, right? But I think this is the two camps, right? Because, at that time, there was a lot of great artists.
Yeah.
Okay. So he had a good 20, 30 year span there, right?
Yeah.
At the beginning of his career, Picasso was still alive, creating shit. Okay. he was revered, right? As a true artist.
Yeah.
During, the 70s, Basquiat, was there, late 60s, early 70s. Lichtenstein was doing stuff. Keith Haring was right. creating, and that was Basquiat and Haring were in the Warhol bubble.
Yeah.
Okay. And people looked at these people, as groundbreaking and emotional and culturally rich. And they explored all these deep meanings and purpose,
Yeah.
Where he was kind of like making this plan on consumerism, right? He was making a play on this.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really taking it overly the art. He wasn't overly taking serious, okay? Which is kind of funny because in contrast, he was a very serious person. So he wasn't the world's greatest artist per se.
No.
Everybody agreed his stuff was, mediocre. It was thin. It wasn't, quite deep or whatever. But the genius came not in his art, but the genius came is in the overall Warhol brand that he built.
Yes, here we go.
And this was why I was like, wow, like this pertains to our space so much.
Yeah.
Right. Again, his work, I found many people that would trash it. Many people loved it, but I kind of gagged at hearing some of the shit that I would hear. But it's like, it really was, his genius wasn't in his art. It was like his, number one, his business mind, right? He was crazy about business. And he said, he had an interview with this famous artist and he gave her $50 if she would, give him some advice. And, and she's like, well, like you want to create good art, then pick things you love. And he's like, well, like I love money. And I love art, so let's figure out how to put those two. And it was like, that was a groundbreaking moment for him. He viewed business as art, which I think it was a really controversial statement that he was making, right?
Was he the first to kind of do that, you think?
So,
or were there others that were like that kind of shields, purpose?
So, okay, there was, if you read, go back, early centuries, right? Like even apparently Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci did try to commercialize and consumerize their art. But it wasn't until Warhol, like he actually turned it and approached it like a business.
Right.
He was smart that way.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And this was the genius, right? He had like a marketing strategy back at the time. He unknowingly built his brand bigger. Yeah. Again, the thing he built best was the Warhol brand.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And that's what sold his paintings.
Yeah.
And he'd go somewhere. He could literally shit on his stick and people would think it was brilliant.
It was awesome. Yeah. And I think this is why he's so revered at this point. It's like you're saying, his work isn't outstanding or anything like that. He had a lot of help with what he was doing, but yeah, the way he marketed himself is why we talk about him.
He was right.
Yes.
And it was his approach to art, and creating art, right? He broke basically every rule that there was.
Yeah.
And that's why it was really cool, right? So what made him, so I got a couple things here. What made him different than the artists before and the artists during his life, okay? Because this is where you start noticing the difference, right?
Yeah.
So, we talked about this, the mass production of art. Okay.
Yes.
There was this story where it said he had learned that, Picasso over his lifetime created 4,000 pieces. And so he was determined to make 4,000 pieces in a weekend. Little over ambitious, buddy.
Wow.
Okay. But,
all right.
in this process, so he ended up doing 500 over the course of a month.
Okay.
Not in a weekend.
Yeah.
Which is still incredible.
That's a lot. Yeah.
But he learned so much about the processes, and this is what he started doing. He industrialized art creation by creating his factory, and that's what it was called. It was called the factory. Okay. And the thing is, he treated art like an assembly line. And this place, the factory, had so much importance in the whole Warhol phenomena, which we'll talk about after. But basically, this factory allowed him to produce art at scale.
Right.
Okay. And making art more accessible and visible than, most of the artists prior to him. Because one thing he did feel, which I kind of liked, is he felt that art should be for everybody.
Yes.
Not just for the elite.
Right.
Right. And unfortunately,
great.
It is cool in that sense, right?
Yes.
So we give him credit. And again, like why he chose pop art, maybe it was because it was easily replicatable. Sure. Something like that, right? But regardless, that mass production part was what, number one, big difference between him and anybody else, right?
Yeah.
Another one is art as a consumer product, not as a, an elite thing. Okay. And so he deliberately chose things that people recognized, that he liked. Okay. Everyday things. He said, what was it? He was like, like art was no longer what an artist felt, but what the world consumed, right? And this is where he took his Campbell soup. Apparently he loved Campbell soup since he was a fucking kid. And apparently, like 50 years later, when he was interviewed in the late 80s, he's still like, I still eat a can every day. That was part of his brand. I guarantee you in the end, it was part of his brand.
Yeah.
But again, the Brillo casings, right? Or the Brillo thing.
Brillo package.
He was just like, don't, look too deep. Look at, the whole what you consume on a regular basis.
Yeah.
This is art. And it was kind of a unique down to earth approach, right? But again, it wasn't very deep. And that, again, kept him very different than the Picassos and the Basquiats and the Herrings of the world, right?
Right.
So he didn't just depict consumer products,
right?
Okay. He turned his art into a consumer product, okay? And this is kind of where the business side of his art, making it accessible to everybody, came from,
right?
Okay. So again, that's something different, okay? Not for the elite, but for the consumer. Self-branding.
Yep.
The guy was the king.
Yeah.
Okay, like to the point where he was losing his hair. Okay. And
was he?
He was.
That's a wig?
It's a wig. So, and he would do the wig thing, and he would embrace wigs and have fun with them, right? And he knew it had. So, it's like Warhol made himself inseparable from the art he created, okay, which goes back to his greatest creation. Warhol's greatest creation is Warhol.
Is himself,
right? And it really is his persona, right? It was so over the top. His platinum hair, his black outfits, his black outfit, his enigmatic demeanor. Okay, which again, you kind of look at and you're like, this guy's a dolt. Okay, the way he'd talk, and he was literally that stereotypical artist that everybody, would tease and make fun of. That was him, I swear, right? He's the guy who did that, but he's very media savvy. And again, this was his product. His brand was his product, which is where the value was. This is why this idea of the factory, he would have his debutantes creating work for him.
Wow.
And it was basically his seal of approval, and boom, it was worth the money that he was able to charge. And he was just going crazy with this, right?
The Marilyn Monroe, you're familiar with that one?
Absolutely.
Somebody else picked all those colors.
All the colors. Yeah. Every single one of them.
Which is the identifying part. You know what I mean? Like,
how funny is that?
But
it's under his brand.
That's his brand.
It's his brand.
He knows what he wants. It's probably his idea to do that.
Fair enough. Maybe either that or he was just too busy. And he was like, just do it.
Just whatever.
Just do
Marilyn Monroe. Yeah.
He had a lot of cultural crossovers at the time, which is really, really different, right? So a lot of artists at the time, they had their medium, they stick to the medium, right? He blurred, music, fashion, art, celebrity culture, which he was absolutely obsessed about, right? And again, so this turned him not into an artist, but this turned him into a cultural icon, celebrity. And he really, really was late 70s, 80s, that figure of Andy Warhol. You didn't know what his work was like from what we were exposed to as kids, but we recognized him.
Yes.
Which was funny because he was so over the top, right? And his factory. Yeah. Okay. So although the factory was where his material was mass produced, it wasn't just a studio, it doubled as a social hub. Okay, for art, for fame, for business, right? And so it was the hot place to be. Like celebrities would be rolling in there all the time. Parties would be happening. It really became part of, and again, it was this whole over the top idea, that nobody else would do. They would, like do art in grass fields. They would do art in their studios, maybe with the muse. He was like mass producing this shit in a studio, and he was having like a 24/7 party, but to build his brand. Yeah. And that's the crazy thing, right? Yeah. And then again, commercialization without any shame. Okay. This dude, like artists prior to him, right? Like the Picassos of the world, and even prior to that, right? They thought that, like the money portion of art was Yeah. Well, no, not even.
Or no, they
They were
didn't
just
think
like,
that.
oh,
Okay.
it's so low brow.
Oh, really?
They weren't.
How
It
gauche.
wasn't like you would paint
Yeah.
to do work. You
Yeah.
wouldn't do commissions,
Oh.
right? It was like, no, real artists don't do that.
Wow.
Okay. He
He's
didn't fucking care.
"Fuck that
He was
noise."
like, no, man. He said that, what was it? His quote about business, I think it was, business is art.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was his approach.
Yeah.
Right. He was like, oh, what is it? Making money is art, and working is art, and good business is the best art. That was his. Okay. So he didn't run away from these lowbrow opinions about art. He fucking leaned into
right
it.
into it,
Wherever
yes.
he could put his name, he would merchandise it,
Yeah.
shirts, bags, clothing, crossovers with other brands. He had no shame.
Yep.
Right. And again, that was brilliant.
Mhm.
Okay. So at that time, so he literally flipped that industry, on its head.
Yeah.
And, love him or hate him, think he's a genius for his art or genius for his business. He really made a statement and changed, that whole world. Some people argue that basically, he ended the whole art world period. And
Wow.
after his passing, that was it. Art just tanked.
It was done. Oh,
So it was
shit.
interesting. There's a lot to this dude. That's for sure.
Huh. That's very cool. That's so bizarre. About the wig. It would make sense now. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, uh-huh.
I don't know how many people
Okay.
actually have hair like that.
Yeah, this is true. This is true.
But you know what though? This is why after seeing him, seeing his work,
Yeah. I was
right?
gonna say,
which
you
was
saw him in
really
New
pretty-
York?
Yeah,
Wow,
right.
wow.
Which is pretty fucking cool. Seeing his work, it kind of motivated me to learn about a little bit more about him. Again, I was very surface and my knowledge, and apparently
proud of that.
He would be proud of that. But I was like learning about this, and I was like, holy shit, this is the perfect playbook for graphic designers. There is so much that we can take from Warhol that it was like, you know what, I put together, the Warhol playbook, okay, bringing Warhol's genius to graphic designers.
Oh, I love it.
And honestly,
I
I feel it so hits home.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big time.
Look at this. So guys, like, play with me here.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay.
This is worth a listen.
So wait, number one. Okay. Learn to streamline your creative and your business process. Okay. So his creative process was the art was with the art and his factory, the factory, okay?
Yeah.
His art blurred that whole fine art with commercial design,
Right.
and he was okay with it because he knew what had to get done, okay? And he had a purpose. If he was hand painting every art piece at a time, or if he had his debutantes hand painting, it would never get done.
Yeah.
So he created this silk screening process, right? Where he was using silk screen printing, to make this repetitive statement over and over. This was part of his whole strategy.
Right.
Okay. This whole factory was a production solely for art. Okay. Okay. Granted, it was also for collaboration. It was cool to bring people together, right? But the real reason it allowed him to scale, okay? By the end of his career, there's over 10,000 Warhol pieces out there.
Wow, really?
Okay? Which is fucking crazy.
That's insane.
Insane. Okay. Now there is another artist that has 10,000 more, but we won't get into that.
Okay.
Keith Haring, if you want to look
Haring.
into it.
Okay.
Unbelievable,
Yeah.
right? But again, his whole purpose, when he found out that Picasso did this, he was like, how am I going to get up there?
I need
right?
to do that.
And his mission was to make art accessible for everybody. So he figured out how to do this process, right? And make a production line of art that can enter that art scene. So whether people were too elite for it or not, didn't matter because the dude was cranking shit out and it was everywhere. Okay. So it was so controversial because people didn't say it was art. Okay. They were like, no, this isn't art. Art has to be painted. It has to be. So he challenged people on a regular basis, right? These ideas of originality. And he was like, no, because his brain was able to push this through. Okay.
Yeah.
So in regards to graphic designers, okay, create processes and streamline your work and your creative work in your business. Okay.
Yep.
This is your opportunity to create templates, your own templates for, proposals, getting shit done, doing things on a repetitive basis, build systems to make your work more scalable. So you're not actually sacrificing quality, but you're kind of getting the boilerplate stuff done on a regular basis and out so you can
Right.
spend more time on the creativity, right? Creativity is important.
Yeah.
But building efficient processes, right, can make you more scalable. This is how one person, okay, can do the creative work of 3 or 4 designers, right? But you need processes to do that, okay?
Exactly.
So actionable tips, okay? Create your templates, right?
Yep.
Reusable assets for your work. Use AI. God knows I'm a fan of this shit, right? Use AI, right, to help scale your process, to make you, more efficient business-wise, to make you more efficient, art-wise. Don't be scared of these tools that are now accepted and used everybody.
Yeah.
You're behind, if you're not already doing these, okay?
Exactly.
If you have similar tasks, batch them, okay, to streamline, to get you in that mode, right? This helps you save time. It helps you save energy, right? And then when you have the opportunity, collaborate with others to expand your reach while still maintaining your quality.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's lesson number 1 that we can learn from the Warhol playbook.
Andy Warhol was a great creative director, wasn't he?
He absolutely was a great creative director.
This is his job.
And this really was, right? It was his vision, his brand, and that's the genius in him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
That's
Lesson
great.
number 2 from the Andy Warhol playbook for graphic designers, all right? Master the business side of design. Okay. So he understood the value of his art, right? And he wasn't scared to treat it like a product. That's what made him different than everybody else.
Every other artist.
Every other artist was holding on to.
It's my work.
I know.
I'm not gonna sell myself out for money, but
Exactly,
he was like,
right?
Do it. Yeah.
He realized this is a business.
Yeah.
Okay. He did
Yeah.
commissions. He created merchandise. He made his art accessible to the broadest audience possible. That got his name out. That brought up the value of his work, right? This is what he did. He didn't shy away from profit. He totally embraced it. He leaned into it and was like, I love money, and I
don't care who knows
He is
it.
like the epitome of the capitalist
Yeah,
designer.
he
Okay,
really is,
He
yeah.
honestly referred to good business as art, and I thought that was actually brilliant,
Yeah,
right? Because
yeah.
it now brings it completely into his world.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So why it worked for him is because he knew that treating art like a business didn't actually diminish its value.
Right.
Okay.
It didn't.
Amplified
Yeah.
it. Exactly.
Yes.
And everybody was so scared and
Yeah.
shying away from it.
Yeah.
It's just like, listen, you put your price out there for somebody, right? And you give them your quote. If they haggle you down, dude, you've already lost.
You've lost.
You
Yeah,
lost.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're
Saying I'm not worth that.
yeah.
You know,
I'm not worth the quote.
I was just fooling you with you. You know what I mean? I just thought I'd start there, but I'm not worth that
Exactly.
at all. Yeah, no. He was like, fuck this. This is my brand. And you don't like it? There's the door, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? And that's how graphic designers need to treat this, right? So, for graphic designers, right? Treat design as a business. Treat your design business as a business,
It
right?
is a business, yeah, for sure.
You need to know your numbers. You need to understand pricing. You need to understand profitability,
Mm-hmm.
how you're billing. You need to understand how to value your product or service when you're talking to people, okay?
Yeah.
So when you price your work, you got to do it strategically. You have to know your worth and you have to share your worth,
Mm-hmm.
okay? If you don't know those numbers and your worth and the difference you're going to make for a customer's business in their life,
Yeah.
dude, you're just going to be spitballing at this
Yeah,
point. This
exactly.
is not mastering your business, right?
yeah.
You got to nail the project onboarding. You got to nail the client onboarding, right? This all helps with the whole, build your brand, build your business, master your business. So
Yeah.
this is why this is an extremely important part of this business project,
Yes. Awesome.
right? Lesson number 3, okay?
Yeah.
Build a recognizable
Oh
brand.
my God.
I know.
This is the thing. This is what I was saying in the beginning.
Right.
He is, when you think of the flamboyant designer or the flamboyant artist,
It's him.
it's Andy Warhol.
Right? And everybody
Hands
mocks
down.
it and makes fun of it. The
Yes,
black,
yes.
the hair,
But
right?
that's what you think. When you say to somebody, what is it? Andy Warhol.
Exactly.
You have that thing.
You're like, oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. And that's exactly it.
Yeah.
His style is, his art style bold colors, pop culture references, a lot of repetition. This made his work mistakable. His hair, his glasses, his outfits, his demeanor, that made him, unmistakable, right? His whole persona was fucking so over the top, right?
Yeah.
And this worked because people didn't just recognize his work, but they recognized him. And again, that's this whole idea that, his biggest, best creation was him.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely,
yeah.
right?
That was his masterpiece.
So when it comes to graphic designers, okay, again, you need to build a signature style that clients and your audience recognizes and associates with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, and we're talking about, there's so many more ways than just doing the work yourself, right? Like if you think of some of the big names in our space,
James Lincoln.
James Martin, very big brand, bold, unmistakable,
Very
right?
bold.
Could you name 1, 2, 3 of his projects off the top of your head?
No.
Probably not, right? Jessica Walsh.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Again, you're like, yes, eccentric.
I can see,
you can see her.
Yeah. But
name any of her work off the top of her head.
No, I can't.
Even Aaron fucking Draplin.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Again, the only reason I can name some of his work is because it's on my wall. But
you see it every day.
I see
Not
it, but
fair.
I couldn't remember. Other than that one I see every day. Again,
Space Shuttle.
These people have worked on their brands to the point where it's like their personal brands out to their work.
Yes.
This is why it's important for this, right?
Yeah.
And that just all builds the bigger picture. Okay. So actionable items for graphic designers, right? Experiment until you find a niche or an aesthetic that you can own. Okay.
Yeah.
And be consistent in your visual, in your messaging, in your communication, right? Across all platforms. Don't make that mistake where your social's doing one thing, your website's doing another, you're personally speaking in an entirely different way, right?
Yep.
And then use the right stories to tie all of that together. Okay. Personal branding is going to make you stand out. And I'm not even recommending you niche. Okay. You don't have to niche, but you have to own your personal brand. And honestly, you have to pick, you have to do it.
Yep.
You have to do this.
Absolutely.
And then last but not least. Okay. Lesson number 4 in the Andy Warhol playbook for graphic designers: become a fucking marketing machine. Okay. He understood that being visible was more important than being talented. And that's, and again, the dude was pretty straightforward about it. You question how serious he took his art.
Yes.
Some people will be like, but that's just the
enigma. He's smart. He knows.
He's genius. That's
is he? Yeah.
Because he's questioning it. It's like, or maybe he's kind of seeing it all as a joke.
Yes.
Right?
And kind of a reflection on us and what we think is really art.
Oh, dude. It's like some of the stuff I hear is ridiculous how people talk about him. If he was alive, he'd laugh and be like, you're a fucking idiot.
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean, okay. He understood that being visible was more important than actually being talented. Okay. He was putting out good quality stuff, but it wasn't earth shattering. It wasn't groundbreaking. It was fun. But it was part of his brand. Because let's face it, there is equally, nice looking, brilliant, silk screen pop art out there that has been created during his time, after his time. You don't see people crazy about it, right?
Yeah.
You don't see people jumping all over it, hanging it, paying, millions of dollars. This doesn't happen because it was his marketing machine that made this happen. He turned his factory into a place where celebrities hung out. Okay. There was buzz. There was all this cultural relevance, and it was all because of his marketing ability. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. He totally embraced media and the controversy around all of it. Okay. Again, ultimately he made himself inseparable from his art and from pop culture.
Yeah.
And that was it. Because again, oftentimes you think pop culture, right?
Yeah,
most people go directly to him.
Yeah,
exactly. Right.
God, can you imagine what he would have done with social media nowadays?
Yeah. Oh my God. Right.
Oh boy.
Talk about being noisy in that case. Right. But again, he understood that being seen mattered just as much as being good. Okay. So for graphic designers.
Mhm.
Okay. Marketing is as important as creating the work, quality work that we do every single day.
Yep.
You need to share your work. You need to build those relationships, and you need to put yourself out there, regardless if you're an introvert or an extrovert.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So actionable tips. Okay. Obviously, most important, just this is no brainer. Post your shit. Okay.
Yep.
Post your
Get it
shit
out there.
on platforms
Yep.
where your audience is active. Okay. Your audience is active. Don't just put it on there on Behance if your customers, your audience, the people that you want to attract aren't even out there. Okay. You got to network intentionally. Okay. Don't just go to events, but you need to go to events where your audience is. You need to focus on building the connections that align with your brand that you're building, your goals. Okay. Your personality. This is up to you to do. Okay. And you need to reach out and do some collaborations if you can, right? Whether it's on social, whether it's events, to start generating a little bit of buzz about your work. Okay. I know somebody, and she would partner up with a web developer, and the two of them would build stuff together for, businesses, networking events, organizations, and it got them more work as a duo, even though they completely ran as separate
entities. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. The factory, right?
The factory.
That's what that is.
That's
essentially
exactly it. So the playbook, the Andy Warhol playbook,
the
for graphic designers.
tenants.
Lesson number 1, learn to streamline your creative and your business processes. Okay. Number 2, master the business side of design. Number 3, build a recognizable brand. Okay. Your brand. Okay. And lesson number 4, learn to become a marketing machine. Okay. He wasn't successful because he was the best artist.
Nope. He would, if that was the metric, he would not have survived at all.
Absolutely.
Because he was not that talented.
Exactly.
But he knew how to work the system.
He knew the system. He knew the importance of branding. He knew the importance of marketing, and he knew how to make fucking money. Okay. And that was important. That's critical, right? So again, these are the things, we need to do. Designers, we can do the same. Okay. Use 2025 to be your start. Okay. Each quarter of this year. Okay. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Okay. Pick one of these 4 and just work on them on your business. Okay. You always hear this story, right? Work on your business, not in your business, because unfortunately, if you're working in your business, you're only paying the bills. You're not moving forward, right? So choose every quarter. This isn't a lot to ask. Okay. You got 4 quarters, 4 seasons. Pick a season and pick one of these 4 and work on it. Okay. And then by the time if you genuinely give it your go, okay, this quarter, the next quarter, it's already going to be part of your process. It's going to be built in, it's going to be automatic, and then you can work on the second one. Do this, because honestly, this is a great playbook. And based on someone like Warhol, his industry was impossible to crack.
Big time. It was very elite.
Yes.
It's for the rich people. Like,
it was.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And right from the beginning, he had people against him.
Yeah.
Okay. They
Which
were just
is great, because that's controversy.
I agree.
That always works too, right?
Yeah. But then, again, you look at the circles he hung out with, right? Like Lichtenstein was in his circle. Basquiat and Keith Haring were actually under him. They were very talented.
And they were amazing artists.
They were incredible. And they had the culture.
They had the talent.
Exactly, right? And here he was. He absorbed them in his world and helped bring them up.
Yes.
He was never, feeling inferior. He never had imposter syndrome.
He had confidence out the ass,
because he knew what they didn't. They were artists and they were designing for themselves, where he was designing for everybody else. Okay. And that's why I feel that, Andy Warhol was, more designer than he was artist. Okay.
Straight
up. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there's some tough talk right there.
Yeah, well, it's true, right? Argue it.
Yeah, I totally, it's funny, because the conversations we've had up before this point, it's just like, yes. And in reading, there are a ton of articles online about design and Andy Warhol and how they dovetail together.
Exactly, right?
You know,
Perfect.
Like, yeah.
I'm surprised though that there isn't more about this, because I mean, again, nobody ever taught me this in our design upbringing.
It's funny, yeah, because we never focused on
You're right.
on artists like that. It was
you're right.
It was the Vignellis and the Saul Basses and stuff like that. They were our wheelhouse. But man, oh man, like as far as marketing goes, this guy's untouchable.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Marketing, branding, and he understood the business side of this.
Yes,
he knew that doing one-off paintings isn't going to get him the exposure because he wasn't as talented as everybody else.
Right.
And maybe he was focusing on money.
Yeah,
he's not an idiot.
He's not.
He knew he wanted to make money, and so he pushed himself.
And
that
to
level.
see that, like that's absolutely brilliant. And to work with your strengths too. I mean, that's kind of that's what he did. He knew his limitations and his values and how to market.
Right. And how to market. Jeez.
Yeah, I can't fault the guy for that.
No kidding.
I mean, I liked his stuff. I always thought his stuff was kind of
well, it was fun.
What did it do when you saw it?
You know what? What did you feel when you saw it? So it's funny. I was going into it, knowing that, in the next hall is Andy Warhol, and going into it, my daughter and I listened to this essay, this YouTube essay. They're calling him now. I don't know. They're fucking YouTube video, but apparently they're video essays. They're calling him essays.
Oh, okay.
And it was somebody who's just trashing Warhol.
Okay.
And I was like, oh shit. So I had that in the back of my mind. I'm
you're like,
dude's trashing him. I'm coming in here.
Yeah.
And and here I was going to go up and start critiquing it and trashing it. And it was just, in all fairness, I was still in awe.
Yeah.
Because this was a piece that I have seen forever.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're standing, looking at a giant. And it was humbling.
Yeah.
To say the least. And I was like, you know what? I think this dude was too hard on him, because Andy Warhol had an entirely different vision than everybody else did. Right?
Yes.
I wasn't looking at his work like I was looking at Picasso's or Van Gogh's, even it's different animal.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this guy is a fucking branding machine.
Because this stuff. Arguably, he's more famous than those other artists.
Well, you're right. You could absolutely
really
say that.
I mean, but is he as good as Keith Haring? No, I don't think so. But yeah,
agreed. I think he made, one could argue, of course, about the cultural impact. One had over the other, because one was, Keith Haring was very motivated, on issues. Oh,
yes,
stuff,
yes,
right?
Yes, he was very much an artist.
He was very much where Warhol was all about the business, all about the Benjamins.
And
he really was. So it's like, two different points. But again, they both had equal impacts, just in different ways.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, because I mean, it's interesting to see now and study art now this century versus these legends of last.
Yeah, exactly. And you kind of think, oh man, people poo-poo that as art. But really, I don't know. I think there's something to take about taking the banality of a soup can,
right,
and making it cultural icon.
And that was the brilliance of his angle, and whether he just did it to be absurd,
and he probably picked a thing. It was just could have been anything.
It was what he liked.
It was just what he was like,
my mom
looking at
fed
the
it to
can
me
in the morning, like.
Let's do this. And it's funny, because if you look at it too close, it's like the lines don't line up, and it's not, and they don't line up. So, but again, it was just what he did with that soup kit.
Yes.
And what he did with the pop culture, and how he made people feel, and how they associated that with him and his brand that made him a fucking cultural phenomenon.
Yes. Yeah.
So, to you, Mr. Andy Warhol.
Salud.
Salud.
Cheers, fella.
Cheers to that, my friend.
Interesting. This is I like these parallels to
I want to do more of these. I don't know if people like them as much.
Well, we'll see.
Let us know,
please,
of course. By
please
all
like
means.
these. We like them.
I hope you guys learned something from this, because I think that there's so much here for you guys to do, and I think that there's so much that you guys can learn from this playbook.
Yeah.
All right. Take these 4 lessons. Pick a season and work on each one of these, and this will change your business in 2025.
Yes.
Make this your fucking mission.
Yeah.
And then in 2026, bitch at us if it didn't happen, and be like, I listen to you.
Fucking
and
Warhol.
But I fucking guarantee you guys are going to rock with this.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody. My name is Massimo.
Well, my name is Sean.
Stay creative.
Let's stay angry.
Peace.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, no, this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.